Sorry, boys, I have to tell you something that will sadden you. He swallowed hard, then continued. I'm the only one who will be moving to my new job. You will stay here with your mother. I won't live with you anymore. I felt tears running down my cheeks. I just can't stay. I fell in love with someone else and I don't love your mother anymore. I'm very sorry. It immediately dawned on me. Our life would change. Despite the tears, I realized that nothing in our life would be the same. My little brother shouted, No, no, you can't! Tell him, Mom, he can't leave! He rushed to her and jumped into her lap. She hugged him protectively as her own tears began to flow freely and drip into his hair. Now he was sobbing loudly. Why are you leaving? Don't you really love us anymore? He was his dad's son, a remnant of the past. It's not about you. I will always love you boys. I saw that he was upset, but, like a man, he did not show his emotions. He just looked between us while the situation dawned on us, while we reacted, each in my own way. Mom's eyes were glued to mine. She was expecting something from me. I was too young to know what to do for her, but old enough to understand that I had to do or say something, but what? Tears dripped from my chin. I looked from my mother to the man who, just a few minutes ago, had been my father. I needed to intervene, protect my mother. She needed me. He didn't love. How could he not love her? She was our mother. She always surrounded us with her love, showed it to him and to us, every minute of every day. I saw how hurt she was. She loved him so much, it was obvious. How could he just leave her like that? Throw her aside, for what? Who was the other one he now says he loves? Did I care about this? Not really. I will answer this question some other day. He couldn't hold my gaze when I looked at him. He looked down, unable to meet my determined gaze. Then I got up from the sofa and stood next to my mother and brother. Now they were my family. You better leave. My voice sounded strange, even, decisive. He opened his mouth to say something, no doubt some platitude, something to ease his conscience. I cut him off. Leave. Leave us alone. We don't need you. I certainly didn't want this. I was angry, hurt, scared, and upset that a man I had admired all my life could do this to us, particularly my mother. The woman he married, for better or for worse. The person who, as far as I know, loved the very ground he walked on. I felt her sob as I placed my hand on her shoulder. Don't worry, Mom. I'll take care of you. She took my hand in hers, and we all cried together. We didn't see him leave. We just heard the door close, and he disappeared. As it turned out, that was the last time I saw him for 25 years. I was 12 years old, the age when a boy needs a father to guide his development into a man. Now I have to do it alone. It's strange how the mind works. The way my mother looked at me told me so much. She needed me to step forward. I had to do it to help her. Mom was wonderful. She had to work full-time to support us, to be both mom and dad to us. I tried. I really did. But what could I do? Well, the only thing I did was promise myself that I would never do what he did. As I got older, my resolve became stronger. Mom told me that sex was the root cause of our struggle, our pain, our new life. She found out about his latest betrayal, did not accept it or his promise to be faithful in the future if she allowed him to stay. She forced him to leave, with terrible consequences for us. He never came to us, completely crossed us out of his life. When I understood what sexual activity was, I could not understand how such a natural process could be so destructive. A few moments of time that a man and a woman share can cause such devastation. I promised myself that it wouldn't define me. It will never wreak such havoc in my life, not again. I will remain faithful and will not destroy my family over sex, ever. Despite what happened to my family, I never doubted that I would find love. Someone like my mom. A woman with a strong character, determined, independent, who will love me and take care of me and our children. But I will not be like my mother. I will be a realist. My wife will be my equal partner with me, because she wants it. I wouldn't make any demands on her, no matter who she was. She would have stayed despite any temptations or hobbies. She would have stayed because she wanted it, because she would have loved me and the children we could have. It was in my last year at university that I met and fell in love with Linda. She was perfect for me. Bright, stunningly attractive, funny, and, as I soon learned, very good in bed. Before we met, we both had other lovers, but we agreed that we didn't experience anything like what we had between us. We were just right for each other. She was smart, independent, and definitely knew her stuff. My ideal woman. After lunch, I was reading the newspaper when she appeared, dressed and made up the same as she had been the previous week when she was getting ready for work. I asked it innocently, "I thought you retired." "Oh, sorry, didn't I tell you? My special skills are still needed, so my services have been saved for 1 day a week. Oh, and I can travel sometimes." She smiled sweetly and walked past me. "I have to go, don't worry, I'll be back soon. It's just business." She didn't wait for me to speak again. She walked towards the door and disappeared. What? It was unexpected. Did I hear what my wife just said correctly? I was sure she had retired, sold the business she partially owned, to start a new chapter in our lives. She said that it would happen as soon as she completed the sale. Of course, she was home all week, spoiling us with all the little things we missed in all her years of work. And now this. I was confused. Linda joined the company for a year-long internship as part of a business management course, and after receiving her diploma, she moved on to a full-time job. The managing partners, Brother Grant and his sister Natalie, spoke well of her, so they paid her a fee for her final year of study. We married shortly after graduating from university, and 18 months later, our first child, Sophie, was conceived. But Linda had thought ahead and continued to work from the office her company had set up in our home. What struck me most was her ability to compartmentalize her life. She took everything for granted, balancing work, giving birth, running the household, and keeping me happy and content. Her job paid well, even when she worked from home, so we hired an au pair to help with our next child, Aaron. Ella lived in a separate apartment above our garage. She stayed to help Linda when she became the happy mother of our healthy girl. Linda wanted to return to the office after Sophie was born, so we decided that 2 children was enough for us, and in order not to interrupt her career, we agreed that I would have a vasectomy. After returning to the office, Linda's career, of course, took off. 6 months later, she was promoted to a management position. However, at home, we didn't see any changes. Everything was as usual. A standard 9-to-5 job. I admired her for being able to leave her office job. She clearly loved her job and got along well with the other employees. But at home, she was 100% ours. We discussed our days, as everyone does. We talked about our colleagues and their lives, shared something unusual or interesting. If they landed a big contract, it was normal for Linda to attend the gala dinner and dance with the team. I was never invited. It was staff only, but it was the same for everyone, so I didn't mind. Linda was always home at the appointed time, and her hair was never messy. For my part, I was making good progress at work, so leaving Ella as an au pair was not difficult. She provided invaluable assistance during the daytime. We took turns as soon as one of us got home on a weekday evening, and then took care of the kids full-time every weekend. When Linda and I were home, Ella was able to live her own life, and we rarely saw her once she handed over the reins to us. Life was good. We were a happy and contented family. We had the usual trials and tribulations, of course, like all other young families, but we were a close-knit team. We respected each other and we had fun. We had a lot of fun. The children didn't want for anything, and I don't mean material things for that matter. We kept them on top of things. Linda gave them her time and energy while they were awake. When they fell asleep, I was the recipient of my goodies, and our personal life remained vibrant and abundant. A year after Sophie was born, late on a Friday evening, she called me and said that she had been asked to stay late because Natalie and Grant had an important issue to discuss with her, It was a special management meeting, and she would arrive home a couple of hours later than usual. For me, this was not a problem. Ella prepared a hot meal for the four of us, so, in order not to waste it, I invited her to join us with the children, and I will make a salad for Linda later. When Linda came home, some new aura emanated from her. I just felt it. Our eyes met, and I saw something. A brief moment of hesitation before she covered it up, giving me my usual hello kiss. When she pulled away, everything disappeared, replaced by excitement. They offered me a partnership. I would have shares and all that. Then she paused and looked at me with a smile. But first, I have to discuss this with you. I'm hungry. Although I prepared the salad. You freshen up and then tell me everything while you eat. As soon as she returned and sat down at the table, she talked about her new role. She would have more responsibility, some travel that would include the occasional overnight stay, a lot more money and status. It was her dream job. Her new role was everything she had worked for, and she was preparing for Grant to step down from his position. She would take over his role and become co-owner. I could sense how excited she was. Everything was going well for her. Of course, I supported her, wanted her to follow her dreams, even offered to cut back on my work responsibilities so I could be more involved with our kids. Ella was almost done with her studies and had to leave soon, so when they were older, I would be their primary caregiver while Linda worked. I agreed to take care of the children's daycare and later their after-school activities, etc. Looking back now, I realized there was some detail that she didn't tell me. I saw a brief moment of indecision, but she hid it. But I knew, I felt it, figuring that if it was important, she would tell me anyway. I put it out of my mind. That night, she was like a tigress in bed, treating me to a sweaty and breathless evening of lovemaking in which I fully participated. As we lay in the afterglow, a feeling of anxiety came over me. She was thinking about something, about some decision that turned out to be difficult for her. When I looked at her face, she blinked quickly, then her smile lit up her face, instantly dispelling my fears. It was like this all weekend. When she thought she was left alone, I saw her confused look. As we ate breakfast on Monday morning, I caught a hint of worry in her eyes. Again, she blinked her eyes when she noticed me looking at her, then smiled at me and relaxed. Everything was okay. I knew that she would decide whatever was on her mind, make a decision, and act on it. I just had to be patient. She'll let me know when she's ready. But she didn't. I took 2 weeks off from work to help Linda get settled into housework. Now she will be home all day. We had some things to do around the house that had been put off until we had more time together. Therefore, it was strange not to mention that she was retained on staff of the new company. I began to analyze our conversations. I was sure that nothing had been said to me about this. I had a feeling of anxiety, even fear. For the first time in our lives, I was suspicious. I don't know exactly why this was at the forefront of my thoughts. She wasn't giving me any of the usual signs. No late nights at the office, no secret phone calls. I never saw a stash of sexy lingerie. I never saw her texting anyone other than her family and friends. She was always in her hotel room if I needed to call when she wasn't home. So why did I come to the conclusion that she was wrong? Although I rarely saw Grant, we communicated frequently with Natalie and her husband Ralph, and I was sure that she would let me know if anything was wrong or if she had missed something. Subconsciously, my brain had to pick up on something, a little clue or clues that added up to a whole. I hope I was wrong. I don't know. I'll know more when she gets home. We definitely needed to talk. She hid it well, but I knew. And when she returned home, now that I was looking for clues, I saw the aura that I remembered all those years ago. This required further thought. I needed to find out what she was doing. I was looking for something. Maybe I was wrong. I hadn't noticed anything before. Well, maybe not until that long ago evening when she was promoted. But now, as then, my feelings were heightened by something unusual, and I hoped that I was wrong. It was unexpected. I tried to keep my voice even. calm and not accusatory. You didn't say anything about the fact that you would have to go to work. I got the completely opposite impression when you announced your exit. On retirement. Oh, sorry, I was sure I mentioned it. She held my gaze. I could not detect any deception. I have to attend the new owner's management meeting every Friday for some time to share my experience. Then maybe visit some of my old clients from time to time, just so they don't forget, you know what it is. Before I could say anything else, she went into the kitchen. Come on, I'll help prepare food for the table. I'm hungry. That was the end of it. The matter was closed as Linda wanted it. We ate, made plans for the weekend with the kids, and made love, quite passionate love. The tigress returned to bed that night. The weekend was like any other we spent together. We did family things, we ate, we laughed, and of course Linda and I pleasured each other in the bedroom. We decided that our task for the week was to decorate and refurnish our guest bedroom, which we did, working together as always, and everything was as it should be. On Friday, I needed to finish a few small things and go to the store to get some supplies. It's okay, I still need to get ready. Don't forget that today is my day to play consultant, Linda replied when I said where I was going. I'll be back as usual, so if you're not back before I leave, I'll see you at dinner. I felt my heart rate increase. A feeling of anxiety came over me when I heard these words. I, of course, expected them, but actually hearing them made me start thinking negative thoughts again. I pushed them to the back of my mind. The roads were clear, and I quickly found the materials I needed and was soon on my way home. Maybe I'll be back before Linda leaves. Although I was on time, I realized that I was not on time when I saw her car leaving the intersection ahead. She left earlier than last week. I immediately realized that something was wrong. We were close to her old office, but to get there she had to head towards me, and she didn't. With only a moment to decide, I ignored the turn I was planning to make and followed her. It wasn't difficult because just a few minutes later, she pulled into the parking lot of an exclusive residential building, or, better yet, a luxury apartment. There was no hesitation as she pulled it into what must have been a familiar parking space. I watched it as she immediately jumped out of the car and walked straight into the entrance. She didn't give me a chance to intercept her or a chance to find out why she wasn't in the office. I stopped on the side of the road and decided to call her on her cell phone. Hey, John, is everything okay? Her voice was normal, as I expected. Maybe just a hint of concern as to why I was calling, but nothing out of the ordinary. It took me longer than expected to get the materials I needed, but I'm on my way. See you in a few minutes to kiss you goodbye before leaving. There was only a momentary hesitation. About. That's nice. But sorry. I was ready faster than I thought. So I'm already in the office, about to arrive for the meeting. I heard the sound of a door opening and a muffled voice. Hello, dear. You're early. It was a short greeting, but it was enough. I knew that voice. Then Linda interrupted the man's words. I'm on, There was a short pause, then, sorry, I have to go. And with that, the call ended. I tried to call back, but the call went straight to voicemail. For some reason, at that moment, it seemed to me that someone had kissed her. A feeling of complete disappointment came over me. Strange. I thought that I would be angry. Maybe it will come later. Now I felt lost, empty, sad. Did I want to confront them? Not good. There might be an innocent explanation for this, although I doubt it. I knew it, especially given the greetings I heard, but I knew that if I saw them together, I would not be able to help but admit it. Back home, I soon finished installing the materials I bought at the store and had an hour to do what I needed. Linda had some explaining to do, but the more I thought about it, the more confident I was in what the outcome would be, so I needed to be prepared. I had a plan, and I was determined to see it through. I remembered my childhood promises to myself. I promised that I would never destroy my family because of sex. Looks like I'll have to compromise. Only time will tell if I will succeed. The children were in their rooms when Linda arrived. It was Friday evening with homework to do. When she approached me for the usual greeting, I stopped her with a question. Where were you today? I tried to speak as smoothly as possible. In the office, as I told you when you called. But what? Have the new owners moved their headquarters to the Grosvenor Apartments? Linda's face turned pale. What do you mean? Well, I called you shortly after I saw you enter the building. I studied her carefully, and if I'm not mistaken, Grant greeted you with the words, "Hey, honey, you're early," imitating him, followed by a kiss. Don't you want to explain? My wife seemed to cower, retreating to the sofa opposite which I sat, her eyes falling to the hands she clasped in her lap. I would prefer not to explain, of course. It was a mistake. I thought, I won't see him again, I promise. Then she looked into my eyes. I know how it looks, but I love you. I want you, not him. Tears silently rolled down her cheeks, and I remained silent, not taking my eyes off her. Memories of the night my father made his statement flashed through my head. The same feelings of utter confusion, anger, disappointment, all mixed up as I tried to process it. Again, I knew I needed to say something, but what? We sat and looked at each other for what seemed like an eternity. The sadness I felt was close to overwhelming me, but I had no tears. Did I want to know? Will I be able to fulfill the promise I made to myself years ago? Part of me wanted to know the depth of her betrayal. Another part was afraid of what I would find out. But what scared me most was, could I handle it? I'm deeply sorry, She fell silent, sobbing, and began to tremble with sobs. We need to figure this out. Decide what happens next, but maybe not now. Even though I could hear the sadness in my voice, her sobs intensified. As soon as the children go to bed, we will talk. I suggest you go and clean yourself up, pull yourself together, and we will eat. I don't want them to see you like that. I stood up. I needed to get away from her. Please understand that you must be honest with me if we want to stay. I left her there. There were even more tears. She stretched out her hands to me. There was a pleading expression on her face. She was looking for at least some sign of hope for us. At that moment, I couldn't give her what she wanted. So I turned away and went to the kitchen. Dinner in 5 minutes is my usual cry to call the children. It took me 15 minutes to get the food ready to serve, so hopefully Linda could pull herself together. I heard Aaron run down the stairs, what sounded like thunder. He was already sitting down at the table when I heard Sophie and Linda arrive together. They were talking quietly to each other before they also sat down at the table. We ate like a family, like many times before, but there was some kind of atmosphere. I tried very hard, but the sadness inside me did not go away. What will happen to us? How bad was this situation? Perhaps this will be our last dinner together? All these negative thoughts were constantly spinning in my head. I just didn't have the slightest idea anymore. Linda tried to take charge by having the kids tell us about their week, then our weekend plans, where to take them for sports, etc., and so on. In general, everything is like that. It sounded fake to me, but it seemed to work. She put them to bed while I cleaned up the kitchen. I felt rather than saw Linda appear at the door. Can I help? She tried to sound positive. Unfortunately, I could not reciprocate her feelings, and without looking at her as usual, I grumbled, "No, I'm almost finished." By the time I was ready, Linda was already waiting for me in the living room. Sitting down on the sofa, she patted the seat next to her, where I usually sat. I ignored her and went to the chair. My children? It was cruel, intentional. It hurt me, and so did she. Her facial expression was incredulous. How can you? Then a pause. Yes, I can assure you of this. Grant started after Sophie. All this time? Yes, I'm very sorry. I tried my best to keep it separate, my family and my career. He was working, business, cold, and necessary. To her credit, she looked at me. The sadness was obvious. Her voice was soft, apologetic. You are family, love, warmth, my life. I see how much you're hurting. There's no way you were supposed to know. I was so careful that it didn't affect us, you and me. She covered her face with her hands, running her fingers through her hair to push it back to the back of her head. What have I done? I'll tell you what you did. My voice rose for the first time. You betrayed me, not only me, but also yourself, our family, all of us. How could you? Why? Linda backed away from my tirade. She looked scared. For the first time in our relationship, I saw fear in her eyes, which was so unusual for me. I softened my voice. I need to know. Try to understand. Not intimate details, just facts. To understand if we can overcome this. Her tears began again, silently running down her chin. We must. Your promise? You promised. As she spoke, the realization of what she was saying dawned on her, so her voice became quieter and slower. Please, I never loved him. Never. I am yours. Always have been, and always will be. Believe me. I have always been only yours, never his. She must have seen the disbelief on my face, so she added with a hint of despair. With him, it was ambition, work, business, a means to an end. That's all. You have to believe me. So when did this start? She covered her face with her hands. Obviously, she didn't want to answer the question. When? Wiping her tears, she said quietly, that was the condition of my partnership. He forced me. No, he didn't force me. Forced me, won me. The price for the chance he gave me, the one I always worked for. She fell silent for a few moments. He just took it. Me, dominated me, overpowered me. Another pause. I kept it separate, but then I started to like it. I even craved it. I'm so sorry. That means at least 12 years. Every day? No, not every day. Mostly once a week. Sometimes more often. The longer it went on, the more I needed it. Not him, but what he did to my body. The way he made me feel. He's not like you. She turned away, unable to cope with the fire in my gaze. What a fool I was. I'm so sorry. While I was digesting her words, she jumped off the couch and knelt down, placing her head and hands on my lap. You won't leave me. Please don't leave me. You are my life. Don't leave me because of this. I love you. I have always loved you and will always love you. Quieter now. Her voice is slow, deliberate, desperate. I already said that I won't see him again. I'm serious. I can give it up. I have already given up on him. Please believe me, you should. Must? Then why now? After all, your retirement was a chance to break away from him, but you didn't do it. She raised her head to look at me. You wanted to go to him? You left me here to visit him. I'm sorry, but it seems to me that you chose him. No, she screamed, then more quietly. Never, never, not for a second. I choose you, only you, always you. Please, you must believe me. Then why did you go to him now? I don't know. It seems so stupid. My reason was, I don't know. Like I said, he does things to me that we didn't do. I didn't give him anything that we hadn't already shared. He's just different, not better. You didn't lose anything from this. You got so much more from me. I love you. But I definitely don't like him. She was silent for a moment, then, he needs me. I'm all he has in life. I thought you wouldn't miss me for a couple of hours, just 2 hours. Every now and then. When I didn't say anything, she added, It sounds funny, I know. Yes, funny. So funny that I can't continue this now. I'm exhausted. I need to think. We need to talk again. But not now. Not today. When I stood up, she jumped to her feet. A look of hope appeared on her face, but it dissipated when she saw my expression. She stood in the middle of the living room and waited for me to close the door. She followed me up the stairs, no doubt expecting us to sleep together, but I moved some of her things into the newly decorated guest bedroom. So when I crossed the threshold of our room, I simply said, I need some time and space. Your room is at the other end of the corridor. I heard her sigh as I started to close the door, then whisper, No, please, not this. We don't need this. She must have realized that I had already decided everything. When I closed the door, the last thing I saw was her standing there, looking lost, beaten, shoulders slumped in defeat, a picture of despair. I slept soundly. It seemed to me that my world had fallen apart, that everything I believed about my marriage was a lie. I knew it perfectly well. Apparently, I was too trusting. I searched my entire brain for clues that I might have missed. But nothing. I have not seen anything. There was only one evening when, as I now know, it began. She was preoccupied, then she seemed peaceful, but determined. Maybe I'll ask her about it. Thoughts were spinning in my head about what if, what now, what should I do? Do we have a future? Waking up early. I was getting ready to take Aaron to soccer practice and then Sophie to dance class. We were having breakfast, and when I heard Linda get up, my pulse quickened with a feeling of dread. I wasn't ready for this. I needed to act normal for the sake of the children. It would be difficult. We have always been such a loving family. Well, that's what I thought, anyway. Good morning? It seems I'm a little late. I didn't sleep very well. It was her usual cheerful voice, which I loved, but I think I don't have my wife's ability to compartmentalize her life, because when her eyes met mine, she stopped mid-sentence. In a quiet voice, she managed to add, "Sorry." Then her voice returned to its usual bright tone. She checked on the children and prepared herself the usual bowl of porridge, but I saw that the cheerfulness did not extend to her eyes. There was sadness and wariness. It was subtle, but nevertheless, I saw her. For my part, I did not ignore her, but I kept my communication to a minimum, and like her, I focused on the children. I left Linda at the kitchen table as we headed out for the morning gathering. I dropped Aaron off first, and then, leaving Sophie with her friends at the dance studio, I settled down at a nearby cafe. As usual, I joined a few other parents who, like me, decided that this was a better way to spend their time than going home, and then having to run off again to get their precious broods. The conversation was light and cheerful, as is usually the case between like-minded parents, so I was able, for a while, to put my problem to the back of my mind. Sophie and I then stood on the sidelines and watched the end of Aaron's football game before heading home. As I pulled up to our house, I felt sadness weighing on my heart as I was brought back to the reality of Linda's betrayal and its impact on us as a family. As soon as I walked in, Linda's eyes showed that she was crying, but she did her best to hide it and her mood while interacting with the children, who, as usual, told her about what they were doing in their classes. I noticed that she occasionally glanced in my direction, but did not try to make direct contact with me. What we did on Saturday afternoon varied. Today, Linda suggested that she and Sophie go to the mall for some girl retail therapy, leaving Aaron and I alone. I was soon left alone when his friends called him and they went off to do what boys his age do. Left alone with my thoughts, I sat and pondered my predicament. Do I agree with Linda's assertion that what she and Grant did not take anything away from me and our marriage? Does she mean enough to me that I can ignore what she did? Is my love for her enough? Am I better off living with her, or at least the part of her that she didn't share with him, or will I break my childhood promise and use nuclear weapons to blow up our family? Trying to rationalize her behavior, I needed to get more information. I knew it would hurt, but I needed answers to a few very important questions. Firstly, why, including how it started. Secondly, why did this continue for so long, especially after the sale of the company? And thirdly, is it because she loves him? Having decided this, I realized that I should at least be honest, but how would I know? She successfully kept me in the dark this entire time, played me like a fool, and I trusted her completely. We need to talk, but first I need information. Where to start? I could contact Grant, but will he be honest? Then the thought of Natalie came to my mind. I would start with her. Her phone number was in Linda's office, programmed into her office phone, so it was. And she answered the phone after the third ring. Hey, Linda, what did you do to Grant? Is he devastated? This is not Linda. Oh, shit. John. She ended the call. I called back immediately. Her phone was busy. I left it for a minute, then tried again. This time, she picked up on the 6th. Sorry, John. I needed a minute. Linda went shopping with Sophie, so I guess she missed your call on her cell phone. Sorry. You're right. Don't worry. I already know about her and Grant. I called you because I need answers to a couple of questions. 3, to be exact. Shouldn't you ask Linda? Since it turns out that I was kept in the dark for years, how can I trust what she tells me now? But if there is any future for us, I need to know that she is telling me the truth now. I'm not sure I can help you, she said hesitantly. The only other person is Grant, and I'm not sure he'll tell me the truth. And even if he did, I'm not sure I could control myself with him long enough to satisfy my curiosity. I realized my voice was harsh, so I softened it to continue. Please, I thought you were her friend and hoped you could help her save her marriage. Oh God, no, Natalie screamed, then calmed down and added in a quieter voice, Don't say that, please. You can't ruin your marriage over this, you shouldn't. I know that she loves you more than anything in the world. Sorry, but from where I'm sitting now, it's hard to believe. Yes, probably, especially if you just found out about it. I heard another phone ring on her side. Just a minute, let me answer. I sat and listened to her answer, what must have been her cell phone. Hello, Linda. Pause. John called. I said that. I thought that I needed... She didn't finish. Linda must have interrupted. Yes, he's on the other line now. Another long pause. So, I understand that he wants me to help him gain trust in you? She paused for a few seconds. Okay, I'll do my best. Bye. Sorry, it was Linda. But I think you heard? Yes. I decided to see what she was getting at. You said you wanted answers. She also wants me to be honest and tell you what I know. First of all, when did this start? She confirmed Linda's words that she was sure something happened on the day of her promotion. I'm not sure you can answer the next question. I paused to carefully formulate the question. I know they are lovers, but are they in love? They were very secretive. I'm sure no one else knows, just me, Grant, Linda, and now you. They don't act like lovers. In fact, I'm not even sure she likes him. He's my brother, and I don't find him particularly cute. She paused, as if contemplating whether to speak further. This doesn't answer my question. I have a feeling that he loves Linda as much as he can love. She lasted much longer than everyone else. As a woman, I think she must have some feelings for him to continue this for so long. I know she didn't want to give it up. I felt my heart skip a beat. This is exactly what I was afraid of. I thought so. I couldn't understand why this continued after they no longer worked together. You need to talk to Linda about this. Does he want her? I was afraid of the answer, but I had to ask. If I kick her out, will he accept her? No. Don't. She loves you, her children. She will die if she loses you because of this. I just know it. This may not be my choice. Even for me, it sounded sad. I may not be able to handle this. Promise me you'll try. Why should I promise you anything? We talked together. I thought we were friends. How could you hide this from me? You allowed them to continue this relationship for so long. How could you do this to me, to us, to our marriage? I was starting to get upset. I needed to end the conversation. When you answered my first call, you thought I was Linda and said Grant was devastated? I think she came to Grant this morning and told him it was all over, that she wouldn't see him again. She couldn't do this anymore. She had to choose, and he lost to you. The fact that she came to him amazed me greatly. I was stunned and angry, so I immediately ended the conversation. I resisted the urge to vomit, trying to control my breathing, sugary visions of her in his apartment, in his bed, flashing through my head. What was she thinking? What was she doing? I was still holding the phone in my hand when it rang. Without thinking, I answered, John, what happened? You disappeared. You hung up. Please don't do this again. I need to fix everything. Make sure you're okay. I'm not sure you can do it. You betrayed me almost as much as she did. You and Grant were in league before we met. Your seduction started from day one. I found it strange that you paid for her last year at university. He wanted her then, and you contributed to it. You took care of Grant, seducing an impressionable girl, picking up a toy for your dysfunctional brother. No, that's not true. She is not a toy, and she was hired because of her business acumen, abilities, and character. The rest came later. You see, he is incapable of normal relationships, so he takes mistresses, always happily married women, those who have too much to lose if they make his life difficult when he is done with her, which he invariably did. But, and again, reluctance to continue. But Linda was different. She's special, but you know it. She separates everything. That's why our business was so successful under her. Why didn't you know anything? Why did Grant completely ignore your relationship with Linda? They were separate. She kept them that way, each of you isolated from the other. You gave me a lot of information. I won't thank you because I'm too angry and I won't do it. I feel like an idiot, a cuckold. She was my wife. I loved her more than anything in the world except our children, and I don't see how we can survive this. John, please, Natalie interrupted me. Don't think so. Maybe I'll come to you. We can discuss everything properly and I can help. After Grant, you're the last person I want to see, I growled. Linda and Sophie will be here soon. I need to pull myself together for the sake of the children, and then discuss everything with Linda again. See if I can live the rest of my life with someone else's toy. Stop it! Stop it! Natalie was starting to get angry. Don't call her that, please. Let her explain everything. Give her a chance, I beg you. I know what it's like, but please don't think of her that way. I said everything I wanted to tell her, so I remained silent. After what I did to you, I can't ask you to make a promise to me, but I beg you to be kind to her, to be the husband you always were to her, the man she truly loved from the moment you first met. So few people know about the two of them that your reputation will be safe, no matter the outcome. Just give her a chance. I'll talk to her, but I don't promise anything. Everything depends on her. She must convince me. I had heard enough, so I ended the call. This time Natalie was smart enough not to call back. When the children went to their rooms, Linda came and sat with me. Natalie called me. I know, I heard. No, she spoke to me after your call. She looked close to tears as she said, she was upset. I've never known her to be like that. You must have hit a nerve or something? What did she say? That I should tell you everything, be truthful, answer your questions, that you are very upset and that this is on me. Well, on the three of us, mainly on me, but also on her and Grant. I noticed a tear roll down her cheek. I want to know the truth. I had 3 questions that I needed to ask her to check your answers, but in a conversation with her, a 4th question arose. Why did you need to check? I've always been honest. No, I haven't been. Have I? Her gaze moved to the floor and her head dropped as she realized what she was saying. You've been secretly lying for so long. How can I trust you to tell me the truth now, especially when you know our marriage is in jeopardy? I make it clear to you that lying will definitely lead to his end. It's on your conscience. This whole situation is of your making, and you are the one who caused it. And what's worse is that you always knew about my ortu, my promise to myself, and yet you betrayed me. Only you have a chance to convince me not to destroy the family that I value above all else. And believe me, this is a very small chance. Very small. She was sobbing. The realization of what she had done seemed to finally dawn on her. I decided to hit her harder and added, you must convince me why I should continue to live with a traitor, with another person's toy. She jerked her head up, and before I could react, she jumped up at me and slapped me hard in the face. I don't. Then, without finishing, she collapsed on the floor at my feet and whispered, but that's who I am. You're right. In your eyes, that's exactly who I am, and it's been that way for a long time. John, what have I done? All you ever did was love me and... Unable to continue, Linda simply collapsed at my feet and lay there. Then I heard her take a deep breath, raise her head and look at me with eyes full of tears. Ask me anything. I'll answer honestly, I promise. It will hurt you, but believe me, it will hurt me much more to know this. Okay, we can start. First, I want to know why, including how it started. She reached for a napkin from the box on the coffee table. Blowing her nose, she took another deep breath and began. They were so good to me. Gave me a job. Trained me. It was my dream. The whole team worked so well together. I became their unofficial leader, the link between staff and management. Natalie and I worked so well together, Grant not so much. From our very first meeting, he had this look as if he could look into my soul. At first it was unnerving, but then I just accepted it as his manner. He never gave me cause for concern, never did anything wrong. He was distant, withdrawn, often unfriendly, rude even. You know, you met him. It's not pretense. It's him, his personality. Why start an affair with, please, this is quite complicated, just let me try to answer your questions. I saw how difficult it was for her, so I waved my hand for her to continue. We continued in the same spirit, Grant, a loner, the undisputed head of the company, the brain of our success, provided Natalie, me, and the team with contracts for work. He had all the contacts, he understood the market, knew where and when to strike. As you know, they were kind to me when I got pregnant, supported me in both cases, and when I returned, they soon promoted me to a management position. I was in seventh heaven. All this study, the skills that I acquired, were put to good use. But still, Grant held in his hands the missing cards, the key to the success or failure of the company. For me, it was a mystery, a puzzle that I couldn't solve. He just didn't let anyone in until... Linda took a deep breath as silent tears began to fall again. They asked me to stay. They said that they needed to discuss something important. They told me to warn you that I would be late. You probably remember this was the first time. Natalie led all the conversations. Grant was planning to retire. She said that he was ready to hand over the reins, transfer his knowledge and skills to me. She took another napkin and wiped her face and nose. They already had a new contract ready. I was supposed to become a full partner, vice president. This was my chance. I was supposed to become his shadow. He was supposed to give me 2 years of training, and I was supposed to become the new head of the company. You know how ambitious I was then, and still am, to be honest. So of course I was interested. What they were offering stunned me. And when I saw the exceptionally good and lucrative offer, Natalie walked away, leaving me to discuss it with Grant, as she said. Then the conversation began with hints, double meanings, all sexually charged. Does the prospect of being right underneath me excite you? And everything like that. All this was said with a teasing expression on his face that I had never seen before. He told me that he needs you on board because there will be times when I need to travel with him, you remember, I'm sure. I nodded my head. I actually remembered it was only recently that I realized the meaning. It was only when he realized I was hooked that he told me he had a condition. He said it was not negotiable, and the next words he said shook me to my core. I will have sex with you. I wondered if I understood him correctly. Then, before I could react, he kissed me, his tongue deep in my mouth, reaching behind my head to hold it in place as he overwhelmed me with the passion of his kiss. I resisted, tried to push him away, but he was too strong, even caught my hand when I tried to hit him in the face. My body betrayed me. I reacted despite my rational mind's objections. I felt like I was giving in as he continued to kiss me. Then, when he let me go, I resisted. I said that I was happy in my marriage, but he noted that this was a plus for him. He did not want or need a permanent relationship, just someone who would satisfy him sexually. I told him I don't even like him. Finally, in desperation, I asked why he thought I would agree to such a condition. I remember his words exactly. They defined my life from then until now. Because you are ambitious, you want this job. You need the power that it will give you. Prestige is important to you. The whole package excites you so much. I can see it and you know it. Oh, and maybe most importantly, sex with me will be good. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And to my eternal shame, he was right. He took me then, right there in his office, and laid me on his conference table. My mind knew it was wrong, but my body wanted him, so I gave myself to him, and he took full advantage of it. I'm embarrassed to say it was good, but it was so good that we then went to his apartment and continued there. That weekend, I should have discussed the job with you before I signed up for it. We, you and I, made love. I remember I felt so in love with you, but I decided that I wanted the opportunity offered, but not his terms, naively believing that all I had to do was say no, and he would give in. I went to his office earlier than he asked, told him that what we did on Friday was wrong, and that he couldn't just demand sexual favors to satisfy himself. But that was so far off when he interrupted me. He didn't seem to hear me. He just ordered me to undress. I still can't explain why, but I did as he demanded. Then he pulled me over his knee and spanked me, really spanked my bare bottom. I was crying in pain at first, and then it happened. I went crazy with desire. I begged him for sex. He, of course, did this by completely dominating me, and to my shame I loved every second of it. I know this will upset you, but from then on, everything was like that. I still don't like him. I certainly don't love him, but I craved the way he made me feel. He never demanded too much from me. He was never cruel, except for the occasional spanking. He never hurt me. He never left marks on me. Therefore, I was able to keep these two parts of my life completely separate. I thought it was part of my job, and you didn't need to know, and as far as I was sure you would never know. Seeing that the last part was hard for her, I remained calm, giving her a chance to collect her thoughts. Then she suddenly gasped, "Sorry, but I need a break." She managed to stand up and make her way to the downstairs bathroom on unsteady legs. When she reappeared, she looked pale and, I think, scared. She sat down in the chair opposite and looked at me sadly. "Well, I think I answered your questions. What will happen next?" "I have one more question, if possible." "Certainly." "On Friday was the last time you were together?" Yes, she may have seen something on my face, quickly adding, "For sex. But I went there this morning to tell him that I won't date him anymore." "I do not trust you." You should... It's true." "How do I know this?" I kept my voice even. "Can't you see that you have destroyed my faith in you? I know that I can never trust you again, especially when it comes to Grant. Given the relationship you described, don't you think visiting him was a little stupid? What am I supposed to think? That he just accepted your decision? Said thank you and wished you well? No, I believe that he demanded that you serve him one last time, and you, as usual, were powerless to resist. No, it wasn't like that." She started to get angry. Her jaw dropped. Her expression became incredulous. "How can you think like that?" "I'll answer you here. I never thought you would betray our marriage, disrespect me, and lie to me repeatedly. But you did. So what does it mean that you didn't listen to him? Now I was on a roll. It was my turn to add a little pain to her, to make her feel some of the torment that I felt. You told me that you crave his society, you like what he does to you, your body reacts to him, so why not? After all, your husband has agreed to this for most of our lives together, so why not do it one last time, so you have something to remember about him, a treasured memory. I believe he even tried to talk you out of your promise to me, that you will end up with him. No, none of this is true. It didn't happen. You have always been my priority." I began to object, but she continued, "I know this is hard for you to believe, but it's true. My love for you has only grown, not diminished. As my husband, you have always come first to me. Work has provided us with a good lifestyle. You seem to be happy as the main parent, and you have to believe me when I tell you that you have always made me happy. I am very sorry that in order to satisfy my ambitions, to further my career and provide us with the lifestyle that we enjoyed, I had to betray your trust in me, but understand this. I never lost respect for you as a man, husband, and lover. I think I showed it every day I was home. What I did with Grant was separate. It was work, my career, my job. It wasn't my life, my love, my family. They were all here, always here with you." We sat looking at each other for a while. I saw hope in her eyes, her desire for me to accept the apology and continue living as before. But I knew that it was not so easy, at least not for me. She had time to deal with it. Her eyes were open all the time, but for me, it was new. A shock, a surprise, a terrible realization that part of our life together was not real. It was a lie. It deceived me for years. How could I just forget about it? No, I needed time to think. Deciding I had heard enough, I was tired, confused. It was late, and I got up to get ready for bed. Linda broke the silence. In a quiet voice, she pleaded, "Please, let me make amends. Let me prove my loyalty to you and our family." Don't throw me away. We can't ruin our marriage over this. Please, I beg you." I didn't answer. I just closed myself off and went to my bedroom. When I started to undress, she appeared at the door. "Can I?" Her eyes betrayed her need. They looked from me to what used to be our bed. "No." I turned my back to her and heard a quiet sob, but did not say anything more. When I finished in the bathroom, she was still standing there, looking even more sad than the night before, and remained there until I turned off the bedside lamp. I didn't sleep, but I kept my eyes closed and didn't hear her leave. By that point, I didn't care anymore. Was my mother right to be so unforgivable and push my father out of her life? Perhaps she was right. Was my promise to myself unrealistic, naive, childish? Maybe. These thoughts kept running through my head. By morning, I was still not close to a firm decision on what to do with Linda. On Sunday, we usually went to bed late, but am I kidding? Linda and I usually did not sleep. The children slept. Who knew that it was a tradition to retire? We often made love, warm, soft, languid love together in the early morning light, and then I made drinks for us while we basked in the dawn. But not today. I was tired, irritable, unhappy, and confused. I lay awake, contemplating what I had learned in the last 48 hours. I was trying to decide what to do. Why should I keep that childhood promise to stay married if this was the case? Given that Linda told me it was only sex with Grant, perhaps I should after all. On the other hand, do I want to stay in this marriage? Was it worth it, as the kids were a little older than me when my parents separated? They are both teenagers now, and I imagine it won't be long before they leave home to start their own lives. Until then, will I be able to maintain our former happy home for them, for Aaron and Sophie? If I stayed, or let Linda stay, could I make things work out? At that moment, in the mood I was in, I felt that this was doubtful. I wanted to spill out, to hurt Linda and her lover, to let them feel the pain that I felt. Then there was a knock on my bedroom door. I didn't even notice it was closed. "Mom, Dad, can I come in for a minute?" It was Sophie. If I let her in, she would see me alone and start asking questions that I didn't want to answer yet. "I'm getting dressed. I'll be there in a minute. Put the kettle on, and I'll come down." I heard a quiet, "Okay," did as promised, and she excitedly explained, "My friend Karen invited me to spend the day with her family. Is it okay if I go now? I already had breakfast. Can I have it? How could I refuse? Their lives must go on despite my problems." Karen lived just around the corner, but I still offered to take her there, but she didn't need me, so she said so. Aaron had been in bed until noon, so it was no surprise that Linda was the next to wake up. I was surprised by how she looked. Unlike me, she looked well-rested, even relaxed. "Where is Sophie? Is she not in her room? What do you care? I dealt with her." Then, casually, he added, "She's with Karen for the whole day. And so we will continue?" I lowered my head as she continued, "Please, John, don't shut me out. I want to help. I really do. I was wondering if consultations would help us. I'll do everything to get us back to what we were." It surprised me, not the consultation, but the fact that she brought it up so early. Didn't she understand that I was devastated and needed time? Instinctively, I looked up at her. She had her hand on her hip, standing close to the dining table, looking at me. "Oh my God, John, you look terrible. Haven't you slept?" Her expression on her face was now concerned. "No, of course, you weren't sleeping. You couldn't. What have I done to you?" As she said this, she reached out to hold my head close to her, as she usually did if I was sick or upset. Her touch repulsed me, and I quickly pulled away, getting to my feet. Now her face expressed only shock and perhaps disappointment. Without saying a word, I went to the shower that I had missed in my haste to go down to Sophie's. I felt a little better. I was better prepared for this day, but who was I kidding? Dealing with Linda would not be easy, but it had to be done. She was sitting in the kitchen drinking coffee when I arrived. She poured me a cup, smiled at me when I took it, and sat down opposite her. "Thank you." I looked into her eyes, and despite the first impression, I realized that in her eyes there was not the cheerfulness that she had originally hoped for. There was sadness and, I think, an element of fear. My promise, a promise I made many years ago. I will fulfill it. I will not break up my family, and certainly not over sex. Hope flashed in her eyes. I'm not happy about this, but I agree that when I didn't know that you were cheating on me with your boss, it didn't affect us at all. You've rarely, if ever, turned me down, so it looks like the problem is mine alone. I need to get used to the idea. It will take time for my anger to fade, if at all. So in the end, whether you decide to stay will be up to you and will be entirely your decision. John, please let me finish. There are conditions, things you may not like, conditions that I must insist on if we want to live here together. Anything. I will do anything for our family, especially if I can stay married to you. I love you so much it hurts. I know what I did to you, and I have to make it right. Let's hope this will be enough. I watched her expression become concerned as I laid out my terms. We have to stand as one in front of the kids, work together like we always have. It's easy. I agree. I need to be away from you for a while, well, in the sense of not being husband and wife. So for now, you'll sleep in the guest room. No, please, how can I? Seeing my determined expression, she retreated. Okay, I will do it for now, but I want you to know that in order to make amends, I need to be in your bed, so please don't leave me for too long. My offer is limited in time. I will stay with you until both children are adults. As soon as they leave the house, it will be over. What I feel at the moment is that I will probably divorce you then. We could restore our relationship, of course, and stay together, or perhaps you won't want to stay, but that will be up to you. No, please. I'm sure I'll just die if you leave me. I promise to work hard to earn your trust because I know you still love me. You have to try hard to give me this chance. I believe in you and your love for me. I have always believed and will always believe. After pausing to digest what she said, I continued. Finally, you will no longer have any contact with Grant, none at all. It's easy. I told you I'm done with him, but what about Natalie? She's my best friend, isn't she? I would like to say no contact with her, but you need a friend, and I think she understands the consequences of any further betrayal. And as we tried to improve our relationship, my anger and tension in our relationship gradually weakened. Linda made sure I had no reason to doubt her. And when, about 2 months later, I allowed her back into my bed, she did everything she could to help me forget her indiscretion. I have no doubt that Natalie kept her updated on how Grant was doing, but his name was never mentioned to me again. Linda should have the last word. Those 8 weeks when I was forbidden to sleep with my husband were the longest of my life. I craved his touch, cried in my sleep every night when I was alone. I would wake up early in the morning and sneak into his room to watch him sleep, listen to his breathing, and enjoy every moment spent next to him. In the beginning, I saw how unhappy he was every day. He disguised it well and hid it from the children quite well. He never waned in his devotion to them. He kept me at a distance and was, at first, simply polite to me, but gradually softened in communication as I sought to regain his trust. I understood perfectly well that I had caused him deep pain, that I and my behavior were to blame for his sadness. I think if it weren't for the events of his childhood, we would have divorced. And if I had not done anything, we would have gone to this point. However, I needed to take my time and first give him the psychological space he needed. After 6 weeks, I noticed that his attitude began to change. We began to talk in the evenings. He sometimes sat with me on the sofa, and I decided to take a chance. I asked him out, invited him to a romantic dinner, hoping that we would end up in bed. He held out for another 2 weeks, while I intensified my seduction. I was over the moon when he allowed me to stay with him again. Another 2 weeks passed before he allowed me to move in with him permanently. The feeling I felt that first time I stayed all night was indescribable, and I promised myself that I would never do anything that would jeopardize the love I knew we still shared. Both kids are away at university, and I'm happy to say we're still together, but sometimes I see the sadness in his eyes and do everything I can to distract him. I hope that now we will grow old together, And if this does not happen, it will not be for lack of trying on my part. I am very lucky to have married such a strong, confident, and forgiving man. I'm not sure we would have survived if it was he who cheated. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.